Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tales of Terror. Now, I know a lot of you use these videos to sleep, so before you go into your deep sleep, I thought it would be fun if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from in the world. Also, like and subscribe if you are enjoying the episodes. Right, let's get comfy and relaxed and begin our story. Part 1. The Wilderness Beckons. James and I always loved stories about explorers who went into unknown places, brave and determined. We dreamed of having our own adventure, and this trip was our chance to make that dream come true. James, my older brother, had traveled a lot. He loved nature and had seen some of the most remote and beautiful places on Earth. He knew a lot about plants and animals and was very confident, making him the perfect companion for this trip. I, on the other hand, liked staying at home and was more comfortable there. But the idea of adventure was too exciting to say no to, and with James by my side, I felt ready for anything. We set up our tent and cooked a simple meal over a small fire. As we ate, we talked about our plans. We wanted to explore ancient rock formations that were said to be the remains of a long-lost civilization. We heard stories about hidden caves with mysterious old items and drawings, and the thought of finding something unique excited us. As night fell and the stars appeared, a feeling of worry settled over us. The forest was alive with the sounds of night creatures, their calls repeating through the darkness. But there was something else out there, something darker and more dangerous hiding in the shadows. "Do you hear that?" James said softly. I said yes, trying to hear the faint sound he noticed. It was a low hum, like distant thunder, but there were no storm clouds, and the air was still. "It's probably just the wind," I said, trying to calm both of us. James shook his head, looking into the darkness beyond our campfire. "No, it's something else. Something unnatural." We sat close to the campfire, listening carefully to the sounds of the night. The crackling fire gave us some comfort, but as the hours passed, a new sound reached our ears, the distant popping of gunfire. Fear took hold of my heart as I realized what we were hearing. Hunters breaking the law. We had come across their illegal activities, and now we were in great danger. James and I exchanged a fearful look. We were alone in the African forest, and the hunters were closing in. "We need to get out of here," James said urgently. "Now." With shaking hands, we put out the campfire and quickly packed our things. We moved quietly through the darkness, trying to put as much distance as possible between us and the hunters. The gunfire grew louder, drawing closer to us. Panic surged through me as I realized we were being hunted. The hunters were determined and getting closer. We had nowhere to run or hide. Our only hope was to outsmart them and escape the forest alive. We pressed on through the night, our hearts pounding. Exhausted and nearly falling, we finally stumbled into a small clearing as dawn broke. The first light of morning pierced the darkness, and we fell to the ground, beaten and sore. "Do you think we lost them?" I asked, my voice rough. James shook his head, scanning the forest around us. "I don't know, but we can't stop now. We need to keep moving." Part 2. The Desperate Journey. As we continued our journey through the forest, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a branch made me jump. We moved quickly and quietly, trying to stay ahead of the hunters who were surely still following us. James led the way, his sharp eyes and instincts guiding us through the thick bushes. Even though I was scared and tired, I couldn't help but notice how beautiful everything around us was. The African forest was full of life, from tiny insects to huge elephants, but knowing there was danger nearby kept me from fully enjoying it. "We need to find a place to hide," James said softly. "Somewhere they won't look for us." We searched for hours, getting weaker with each step. Just when it seemed like we would never find a safe place, James saw a small opening in a rock formation. It was hard to see through the thick leaves, but it gave us hope. "This way," he said, leading me to the opening. "We can hide in there until it's safe." The entrance to the cave was small and narrow, just big enough for us to fit through. Inside, it was cool and wet and very dark. We moved carefully, using our flashlights to see the rocky walls. "This is perfect," James said, his voice echoing in the cave. "They'll never find us here." We settled into the cave, grateful for a break from the hunters chasing us. As we rested, we talked about our plans for the future, trying to keep our minds off the fear that threatened to take over. "Do you remember that time we went camping with Dad?" James asked with a sad smile. "We got lost in the woods and thought we'd never find our way back." I said yes, a faint smile on my face. "Yeah, and he made us build a shelter out of branches and leaves. He said it was good practice for real-life survival." James laughed quietly, his laughter echoing through the cave. I guess he was right. Who knew we'd actually need those skills one day? We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our situation pressing down on us. Despite the danger, there was a sense of togetherness between us, a bond formed through years of shared experiences. "We'll get through this," James said with determination. "We've faced tough times before, and we'll face them again, but we'll get through it. Together." Part 3. The Confrontation. Hours turned into days as we hid in the cave, waiting for the danger to pass. We carefully saved our supplies, trying not to make too much noise or draw attention to ourselves. The fear of being found was always there, but we tried to stay positive by talking about our plans for the future. "We should write a book about this," James said one night as we sat close together to stay warm. "Imagine the stories we could tell, the adventures we've had, the dangers we've faced." I smiled, the idea of turning our hard times into something good lifting my spirits. Yeah, maybe we could inspire others to follow their dreams and have their own adventures. But our peace was broken one morning when we heard voices outside the cave. The hunters had found us. "They're in there!" one of the men shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "We've got them now." Panic hit me as I realized our hiding place had been discovered. James and I exchanged a worried look, our minds racing as we tried to come up with a plan. "We have to fight," James said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "It's our only chance." I agreed, my heart pounding. We gathered whatever makeshift weapons we could find. Rocks, sticks, anything that could help us. The hunters came closer to the cave entrance, their voices growing louder and scarier with each moment. I could see the shine of their guns in the dim light, and the reality of our situation hit me hard. "Come on out," one of the hunters called, his voice full of evil. "We know you're in there. There's no use hiding." James stepped forward, holding his makeshift weapon high. "Stay back," he shouted, his voice echoing in the cave. "We're armed, and we're not afraid to use force." The hunters laughed, their voices cruel. "You think you can take us on? There's 2 of you and 6 of us. You've got no chance." But James stood his ground, his eyes filled with determination. "We may be outnumbered, but we're not going down without a fight." The tension in the cave was strong as the hunters moved closer, their guns aimed at us. I could feel my heart pounding, the fear almost too much to handle, but I knew we had no choice but to fight for our lives. The first hunter rushed at James, his gun aimed at my brother's chest. James hit him with his weapon with all his strength, knocking the hunter to the ground. I followed, attacking the nearest hunter with a rock. The cave turned into a mess as we fought for our lives, the sounds of gunfire and shouting bouncing off the walls. It was a desperate, brutal fight, and for a moment, it seemed like we might not make it out alive. But then, just as it seemed all hope was lost, we heard the sound of approaching voices. The park rangers had arrived. Part 4. The Rescue. The park rangers rushed into the cave, their guns ready and their faces serious. They quickly overpowered the hunters, taking their weapons and putting handcuffs on them. James and I fell to the ground, our bodies sore and beaten from the fight. Relief washed over me as I realized we were safe. The rangers led us out of the cave and into the bright daylight. As we came out of the darkness, I felt very thankful for the rangers who had saved our lives. "You boys are lucky we found you when we did," one of the rangers said, his voice full of concern. "Those hunters are some of the most dangerous men out here." You could have been killed. James agreed, his face pale but determined. We knew the risks when we came out here, but we couldn't just sit back and let them destroy this beautiful place. The ranger smiled, a look of admiration in his eyes. You're brave, I'll give you that. But next time, leave the fighting to us professionals. We were taken to a nearby ranger station where we were given food, water, and medical care. As we sat safely in the station, I couldn't help but think about the hard time we had just gone through. The African forest was a place of amazing beauty and wild nature, but it was also a place of danger and uncertainty. I had learned so much about myself and the world around me during our journey, and I knew I would never be the same. As we prepared to leave the ranger station and go back to normal life, I felt a bit sad about leaving the forest behind. But I also felt very thankful for the experiences we had shared and the lessons we had learned. James and I made a promise to each other that day. A promise to never stop seeking out adventure and to always face the unknown with courage. No matter where life took us, we knew that the wilderness would always be a part of us, a reminder of the strength and toughness we had discovered within ourselves. Epilogue: A new beginning. Years later, James and I returned to the African forest, this time with our own families. We wanted to share the beauty and wonder of nature with our children and teach them the value of courage and the importance of protecting the wild places in the world. As we set up camp and watched the stars twinkle overhead, I felt a sense of peace. The wilderness had taught me many things, but the most important lesson was this: courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to face it. And with that strength, I knew I could face anything that life threw my way. The wilderness of shadows had become a part of me, a part of my story. And as I looked at my children, I knew they would carry that legacy forward, exploring the world with the same sense of wonder and adventure that had brought James and me to the African forest all those years ago. Part 5. The Aftermath. The days after our rescue were a blur of police reports and meetings. James and I told the authorities about our ordeal, describing the fear we felt as we were hunted through the forest. The hunters we encountered were part of a larger group, and our story would help bring them to justice. Even though we were safe, I couldn't stop feeling afraid. Every rustle of leaves, every distant sound reminded me of that night. The forest that once seemed so friendly now felt scary. James, always positive, tried to lift my spirits. "We made it through, didn't we?" he said, giving me a tap on the back. "We'll be all right. It just takes time to get used to it." I agreed, appreciating his attempt to cheer me up, but the shadows of the forest seemed to follow me everywhere. Even in the safety of the ranger station, I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, expecting danger at any moment. Part 6. Return to civilization. Coming back to normal life was both a relief and a challenge. The comforts of home felt strange after what we had been through, and I found it hard to get back into the routine of daily life. James threw himself into work, using the experience to fight for wildlife protection and stopping illegal hunting. One night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the memories of our journey played out in my mind. I remembered the thrill of discovery, the fear of the unknown, and the bond one shared with my brother. Despite the terror we faced, there was a part of me that missed the wilderness, the sense of adventure and freedom it offered. I decided to put my thoughts into writing, documenting our journey in vivid detail. As the words flowed, I found a sense of relief in reliving the experience, facing my fears on the page. The story took shape, a tale of courage and survival, of the beauty and danger of the African forest. Part 7. The haunting begins. As I worked on the manuscript, strange things started happening. At first, it was just small, unsettling events, the feeling of being watched, objects moving out of place, shadows that seemed to shift and flicker in the corners of my vision. I tried to ignore it, thinking it was my imagination and leftover fear from our experience. But the incidents grew more frequent and more disturbing. One night, I woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway outside my bedroom. My heart raced as I lay there, listening to the slow steps. I gathered the courage to get up and check, But when I opened the door, the hallway was empty. The next day, I called James, needing to hear a familiar voice. "Hey, how are you doing?" he asked, sounding worried. "Not great," I admitted. "Strange things are happening, James. I don't know if it's just in my head, or if something is really going on. Do you want me to come over?" he offered. "I can take a few days off to help you." I hesitated, not wanting to burden him, but the fear inside me made the decision for me. "Yeah, that would be great. Thanks." Part 8. Unveiling the Truth. James arrived the next day, his presence a comforting reminder of our bond. We spent hours talking, revisiting our journey and the things we saw. He listened patiently as I described the strange occurrences, his expression growing more serious with each detail. "We need to figure out what's going on," he said finally. "Let's start by looking around the house, see if there's any logical explanation for this." We did a thorough search, checking every room, every corner. But there was nothing out of the ordinary. No signs of strangers, no evidence of anything unusual. It was as if the shadows themselves were playing tricks on me. That night, we stayed up late, sitting in the living room with the lights on. James tried to keep the conversation light, but there was a tension that neither of us could ignore. As the hours passed, the house seemed to close in around us, the air growing heavy. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, throwing us into darkness. My heart pounded as I searched for a flashlight, the beam cutting through the blackness to reveal James's worried face. "Stay close," he whispered, his voice tense. "We'll check the breaker." We made our way to the basement, the flashlight casting eerie shadows on the walls. As we reached the bottom of the stairs, a cold gust of wind blew through the room, putting out the light. We were left in complete darkness, and I could feel the panic rising inside me. "James!" I called out, my voice shaking. "I'm here," he replied, his hand finding mine in the darkness. "Don't move. We'll figure this out." But before we could take another step, a low, growling sound echoed through the basement. The noise was unlike anything I had ever heard, a strange, otherworldly noise that sent chills down my spine. Part 9. The Encounter. We stood frozen in the darkness, the growl echoing around us. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening. Was this some kind of animal? Something we imagined? Or something far more scary? "Whatever it is, we need to get out of here," James whispered, his grip on my hand tightening. We moved slowly, carefully navigating the pitch-black basement. Every sound seemed louder, every creak of the floorboards a potential threat. As we reached the stairs, the growl sounded again, closer this time. I felt a rush of adrenaline as we rushed up the stairs and burst into the main floor of the house. We shut the basement door hard behind us, leaning against it as we tried to catch our breath. "We need to call for help," James said, his voice shaky. "Something's not right here." But when we tried to use the phone, there was no signal. The lines were dead, and our cell phones showed no bars. We were completely cut off, trapped in a house that seemed to be alive with dark energy.
Part 10. The Confrontation. Determined to get to the bottom of this, we armed ourselves with whatever we could find: kitchen knives, heavy objects, anything that could serve as a weapon. We moved carefully through the house, every step filled with fear. As we entered the living room, the temperature dropped suddenly, our breath visible in the cold air. The shadows seemed to twist and move, taking on shapes that didn't make sense. And then, in the center of the room, we saw it, a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. "Who are you?" James demanded, his voice strong despite the fear I knew he felt. The figure remained silent, its gaze fixed on us. The air grew thick with a sense of dread, and I could feel the walls closing in around us. "Leave us alone," I shouted, raising my makeshift weapon. "We didn't do anything to you." The figure moved closer, its presence filling the room with a strong sense of fear. And then, in a voice that seemed to come from deep within the earth, it spoke. "You have crossed onto sacred ground," it said, its voice a low growl. "You have disturbed the spirits of the land, and now you must pay the price." I felt a cold hand grip my heart as the words sank in. The hunters, the cave, the strange occurrences, it all made sense now. We had stumbled into something far greater than ourselves, and the spirits of the land were seeking payback. Part 11. Seeking Redemption. "We're sorry," James said, his voice filled with honesty. "We didn't know. Please, tell us what we can do to make things right." The figure seemed to think about his words, its glowing eyes narrowing. "There is a way," it said finally, "but it will require great sacrifice and courage. You must return to the place where it all began and ask for forgiveness from the spirits." I looked at James, my mind spinning from the news. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, his face determined. "It's the only way. We have to make this right." With the figure's instructions in our minds, we prepared for the journey back to the African forest. The thought of facing the unknown again filled me with fear, but I knew it was our only chance to find peace. Part 12. The Return. The journey back to the African forest was a blur of fear and determination. We retraced our steps, guided by the memories of our previous ordeal. As we neared the cave where it all began, a feeling of worry settled over us. The landscape seemed different now, almost unreal. The air was thick with tension, and every sound seemed louder. We moved carefully, our senses on high alert. When we reached the cave, the entrance seemed larger than before, a dark hole that threatened to swallow us whole. But we pressed on, driven by the need to seek forgiveness. Inside, the air was cool and wet, and the darkness was almost complete. We moved slowly, guided by the faint light of our flashlights. As we reached the heart of the cave, we saw them, the spirits of the land, their forms shimmering in the dim light. Part 13. The Ritual. The spirits watched us with a mix of curiosity and suspicion, their eyes glowing with a strange light. We stood before them, our hearts pounding in our chests. "We have come to ask for forgiveness," James said, his voice steady. "We did not mean to cross onto your sacred ground. Please, show us how we can make amends." The spirits seemed to think about his words, their forms shifting and flickering. Finally, one of them stepped forward, its eyes locked on James. "There is a ritual," it said, its voice a haunting melody. "A ceremony of making things right that must be performed. It will require great courage and selflessness. Are you ready for what lies ahead?" James nodded, his face determined. "We are." The spirit extended its hand, and a small, carefully carved statue appeared in its palm. "Take this," it said, handing the statue to James. "It is a symbol of your commitment to the land and its spirits. You must place it in the heart of the sacred grove, where the spirits will judge your worthiness." Part 14. The Sacred Grove. With the statue in hand, we set off for the sacred grove, guided by the spirit's instructions. The journey was hard, filled with obstacles and challenges that tested our resolve. But we pressed on, driven by the need to make things right. The grove was a hidden oasis, a place of breathtaking beauty and peace. The air was thick with the scent of flowers and the sound of rustling leaves. As we entered, I felt a sense of calm wash over me, a stark contrast to the fear and tension of the past days. In the center of the grove stood a massive tree, its branches stretching high into the sky. It was ancient, its trunk gnarled and twisted with age. We approached it with respect, knowing that this was the heart of the sacred land. James placed the statue at the base of the tree, his hands steady despite the weight of the moment. As the statue touched the earth, a light began to shine from it, growing brighter and brighter until it lit up the entire grove. Part 15. The Judgment. The spirits appeared before us, their forms shimmering in the bright light. They watched us with a mix of curiosity and seriousness, their eyes glowing with a strange light. "You have done well," one of the spirits said, its voice like a haunting song. "You have shown great courage and humility, but the final judgment lies ahead." We stood before them, our hearts pounding. The light grew brighter, wrapping us in its warmth. I felt a sense of peace wash over me, a big change from the fear and tension of the past days. "You are worthy," the spirit said finally, its voice filled with respect. "You have proven your respect for the land and its spirits. You are forgiven." The light began to fade, and the spirits slowly disappeared, leaving us alone in the grove. The sense of peace stayed with us, showing the power of redemption and forgiveness. Part 16. A New Beginning. With the Spirit's forgiveness, we returned to the world with a new sense of purpose. The shadows that had haunted us were gone, replaced by a sense of peace and clarity. We had faced our fears and come out stronger and more resilient. James and I continued to work for wildlife conservation, using our story to inspire others to respect and protect the natural world. Our bond grew stronger, forged by the trials we had faced together. As the years passed, we never forgot the lessons we learned in the African forest. The wilderness had become a part of us, a reminder of the strength and resilience we had discovered within ourselves. And as we watched our children grow, we knew that they, too, would carry that legacy forward, exploring the world with the same sense of wonder and adventure that had brought us to the African forest all those years ago. The wilderness of shadows had become a part of our story, a testament to the power of courage, resilience, and redemption. And as we looked to the future, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them with the same strength and determination that had carried us through our darkest days.
Part 17. Unsettling Dreams. As James and I settled back into our lives, the peace we had found in the African bush stayed with us. But the experience had left a deep mark on me. Even though the spirits had forgiven us, I kept having unsettling dreams. In these dreams, I was back in the bush, surrounded by familiar sights and sounds. But there was always a sense of dread, like something was watching me from the shadows. I would wake up sweating, my heart racing, the memories of our ordeal flooding back. James, always supportive, encouraged me to talk about my dreams. "It's natural to have lingering fears after what we went through," he said. "But remember, we're safe now. The spirits forgave us." I nodded, grateful for his reassurance, but the dreams continued to haunt me. They felt too real, like the spirits were trying to tell me something. Part 18. The Research. Determined to understand my dreams, I started researching the African bush, its history, and the spiritual beliefs of the local tribes. I spent hours reading books, articles, and watching documentaries, looking for any clue that could explain my experiences. One evening, I found an old journal written by a British explorer in the early 1900s. The explorer had recorded his travels through the African wilderness and his encounters with the local tribes. What caught my attention was a passage about a sacred ritual the tribes performed to honor the spirits of the land. According to the journal, the ritual involved several symbolic acts meant to honor the spirits and seek their guidance. It was said that those who performed the ritual with pure intentions would be granted visions that could reveal hidden truths. Intrigued, I shared my findings with James. "Do you think the spirits are trying to communicate with us through my dreams?" I asked, unsure. James thought for a moment before nodding. "It's possible. We've already seen things that are hard to explain. Maybe the dreams are a way for the spirits to guide us." Part 19. Preparing for the ritual. With a renewed sense of purpose, James and I decided to perform the ritual described in the explorer's journal. We hoped that by doing so, we could gain a deeper understanding of our experiences and find some answers. We gathered the necessary items for the ritual: offerings of food and drink, symbols of nature, and personal tokens that meant a lot to us. The ritual required a secluded outdoor location, so we chose a remote clearing in a nearby forest that reminded us of the African bush. On the night of the ritual, the air was crisp and cool, and the stars twinkled overhead. We arranged the items in a circle and lit a small fire in the center, its flames casting dancing shadows on the surrounding trees. As we began the ritual, we followed the steps outlined in the journal, reciting the ancient words and making the symbolic gestures. The atmosphere grew heavy with energy, and I could feel the presence of the spirits around us. Part 20. The Vision. As the ritual reached its peak, I felt a strange sensation wash over me, a mix of calm and excitement. The flames of the fire flickered and swayed, and the world around us seemed to blur and shift. I closed my eyes, letting myself fully enter the experience. In the darkness behind my eyelids, images began to form. I saw the vast African bush, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and gold. I saw the ancient tree in the sacred grove, its branches reaching towards the sky. Then, I saw the spirits, their forms shimmering and ghostly, their eyes filled with wisdom and kindness. They beckoned me closer, and as I approached, I felt a sense of understanding wash over me. "You have honored us with your courage and humility," one of the spirits said, its voice like a melody. "But there is more you must learn. The journey is not yet complete." I felt a surge of curiosity and determination. "What must we do?" I asked, my voice steady. The spirit pointed towards the horizon, where the first light of dawn was starting to appear. "There is a place, hidden deep within the wilderness, where the past and present meet. You must go there and uncover the truth that lies within." Part 21. The Hidden Sanctuary. When I opened my eyes, the vision faded, leaving me with a sense of purpose and clarity. James looked at me expectantly, his expression full of anticipation. "The spirits have shown us the way," I said, recounting the vision. "We need to find the hidden sanctuary where the past and present meet. It's the only way to uncover the truth." James nodded, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Then that's what we'll do. Let's prepare for another journey." With renewed resolve, we began planning our trip to the hidden sanctuary. We gathered supplies, mapped out our route, and made sure we were ready for the challenges that lay ahead. Part 22. The second expedition. Our journey to the hidden sanctuary took us deep into the heart of the wilderness. The landscape was both familiar and new, a mix of beauty and danger. As we ventured further, the feeling of being watched returned, but this time, it felt more like a guiding presence than a threat. The days were long and hard, filled with physical challenges and moments of deep thought. We saw breathtaking views, tricky paths, and wildlife that reminded us of the delicate balance of nature. One evening, as we set up camp near a river, we heard the distant call of a lion. The sound echoed through the valley, a reminder of the wild power of the wilderness. We sat by the fire, sharing stories and thinking about our journey. "Do you ever wonder why we were chosen for this?" I asked, looking at the flickering flames. James nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I think it's because we were willing to listen. We respected the land and its spirits, even when we didn't fully understand. Maybe that's why they chose us." Part 23. The Sanctuary Revealed. After days of trekking, we finally reached the place described in my vision. The hidden sanctuary was a secluded valley, surrounded by tall cliffs and lush plants. It was a place of quiet beauty, untouched by time. In the center of the valley stood an ancient stone structure, its surface covered in detailed carvings and symbols. It was a place of respect, showing the spiritual importance of the land. As we approached the structure, the air grew heavy with a sense of anticipation. The spirit's presence was strong here, and I felt a deep connection to the history and energy of the place. James and I stood before the stone structure, our hearts pounding with a mix of awe and respect. We knew that this was the end of our journey, the moment of truth we had been seeking. Part 24. The Revelation. We began to explore the stone structure, our fingers tracing the carvings that covered its surface. The symbols told a story of a great civilization that had once thrived in harmony with the land and its spirits. They spoke of rituals and ceremonies, of a deep respect for the natural world and the balance that sustained it. As we explored deeper into the structure, we discovered a hidden chamber, its entrance hidden by a series of clever mechanisms. With careful precision, we unlocked the chamber and stepped inside. The chamber was dimly lit by the soft glow of glowing plants, casting an eerie light on the walls. In the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, upon which rested an ancient artifact, a beautifully crafted amulet, its surface decorated with precious stones and delicate engravings. As we approached the pedestal, the spirits appeared before us, their forms shimmering with ghostly light. They watched us with a mix of curiosity and seriousness, their eyes filled with wisdom. "You have found the sanctuary," one of the spirits said, its voice a melodic echo. "And now, you must understand its importance." We listened closely as the spirit explained the amulet's significance. It was a symbol of the bond between the land and its inhabitants, a reminder of the need to honor and protect the natural world. The amulet held the power to connect with the spirits and gain their guidance, but it also came with great responsibility. Part 25. The Decision. The spirit's words resonated deeply within us. We understood that our journey was not just about seeking forgiveness, but about embracing a lifelong commitment to respect, balance, and stewardship. "We accept this responsibility," James said, his voice filled with determination. "We will honor the amulet and the spirits, and we will do everything we can to protect the land." The spirits nodded, their forms flickering with approval. "Then take the amulet," one of them said. "It is a symbol of your bond with the land and its spirits. Use it wisely, and let it guide you on your path." James carefully lifted the amulet from the pedestal, its weight both physical and symbolic. As he held it, I felt a surge of energy, a connection to the land and the spirits that was both humbling and empowering. Part 26. The Return Home. With the amulet in our hands, we began the journey back home, our hearts filled with a sense of purpose. The wilderness that once seemed so scary now felt like a place of great beauty and importance. As we traveled, people were curious about our journey. We shared our story, talking about the need to respect and protect the natural world. The amulet became a symbol of our promise, reminding us of the lessons we had learned. When we got back, we continued our work in conservation and advocacy, using our experiences to inspire others. The amulet guided us, a constant reminder of our bond with the spirits of the land. Part 27. The Legacy. Years passed, and the amulet became a treasured family heirloom, passed down through generations. Each new keeper took on the responsibility of honoring the land and its spirits, carrying forward the legacy of respect. The lessons we learned in the African bush continued to shape our lives and those who came after us. The wilderness remained a place of beauty and wonder, a testament to the power of nature and the need for balance. As I looked back on our journey, I knew that the wilderness of shadows had become a part of our story, a story of courage, resilience, and redemption. It was a story that would continue to inspire and guide us, a reminder of the strength and wisdom within us all. Epilogue. A New Dawn. As the sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the land, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been deeply rewarding. The spirits of the land had shown us the way, guiding us through the shadows and into the light. As we stood together, united by our experiences and our commitment, I knew we were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The wilderness of shadows had taught us that true strength comes from within, and that by honoring the land and its spirits, we could find the courage to overcome any obstacle. As we looked to the future, we knew that the legacy of our journey would continue to inspire and guide us, lighting the way for generations to come. Part 28. A New Threat. Months passed, and the amulet remained a source of comfort and guidance. James and I continued our conservation work, inspired by our experiences and the responsibility we had accepted. However, the peace we had found was soon threatened by a new, ominous development. reports began to surface about a mysterious illness spreading through the wildlife in the African bush. Animals were falling ill, their behavior becoming erratic and aggressive. The symptoms were unlike anything the local experts had seen before, and there was growing concern that the illness could spread to humans. One evening, James and I received a call from one of the park rangers we had met during our ordeal. His voice was tense and urgent. "We need your help," he said. "There's something happening in the bush, something we don't understand. Animals are dying, and the disease is spreading fast. We think it might be connected to the spirits." Part 29. The investigation begins. Determined to uncover the truth, James and I packed our bags and returned to the African bush. The journey felt both familiar and foreboding, the memories of our previous adventure still fresh in our minds. As we arrived at the ranger station, we were greeted by a sense of urgency and tension. The rangers were on high alert, their faces grim with worry. "We've been monitoring the situation," the head ranger explained. "The disease seems to be affecting the wildlife in specific areas that are known to be spiritually significant. We need to find out what's causing this and stop it before it's too late." James and I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. We knew that our connection to the spirits and the amulet might be the key to solving this mystery. Part 30. The first clues. Our investigation began with a thorough examination of the affected areas. We trekked through the bush, guided by the rangers and the knowledge we had gained from our previous journey. The signs of illness were everywhere. Animals lying lifeless, plants withering, and the air thick with a sense of unease. As we delved deeper into the heart of the bush, we encountered a group of indigenous elders who had lived in harmony with the land for generations. They welcomed us with a mix of curiosity and concern, their eyes filled with the wisdom of ages. "We have seen this before," one of the elders said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "It is a sign of imbalance, a disruption of the natural order. The spirits are angry, and their wrath is being felt by all who inhabit this land." Part 31. Seeking the spirits' guidance. With the elders' guidance, we decided to perform another ritual to seek the spirits' help. This time, the ritual was more elaborate, involving the entire community and drawing on the collective knowledge and traditions of the indigenous people. We gathered in a sacred clearing, surrounded by ancient trees and the soft glow of firelight. The air was thick with anticipation as we began the ceremony, reciting the ancient words and making the symbolic gestures that connected us to the spirits. As the ritual reached its peak, a sense of calm washed over the clearing. The spirits appeared before us, their forms shimmering with ethereal light. "You have come seeking answers," one of the spirits said, its voice a melodic echo. "The imbalance you see is a result of greed and exploitation. The land is suffering, and the spirits are weeping." Part 32. The source of the illness. The spirits revealed that the illness was caused by illegal mining operations that had disrupted the delicate balance of the ecosystem. The mining activities had poisoned the water and soil, spreading toxins that affected both wildlife and humans. "You must stop the mining," the spirit said. "Only then can the land begin to heal. The amulet will guide you, but you must act quickly." Determined to put an end to the destruction, James and I set out to find the source of the mining operations. With the amulet as our guide, we navigated the treacherous terrain, following the clues left by the spirits. Part 33. The confrontation. Our journey led us to a remote area of the bush, where we discovered a hidden mining site. The site was both shocking and disheartening. The once pristine landscape was scarred by heavy machinery and toxic waste. As we approached, we were confronted by a group of armed men who were guarding the site. Their leader, a ruthless man with a cold, calculating gaze, stepped forward. "This is private property," he said, his voice filled with menace. "You have no business here." James stood his ground, his eyes blazing with determination. "You're destroying the land and poisoning the wildlife. This has to stop." The leader laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "You think you can stop us? You're just a couple of do-gooders with no power. Get out of here before you get hurt." Part 34. The power of the amulet. With the amulet in hand, we felt a surge of energy and courage. We knew that we couldn't back down, not when so much was at stake. "We won't leave," I said, my voice steady. "The spirits are with us, and we will do whatever it takes to protect this land." The leader's expression darkened, and he signaled to his men to attack. But as they moved towards us, the amulet began to glow with a brilliant light, filling the air with a powerful, protective energy. The men hesitated, their eyes wide with fear as the light grew brighter. The spirit's presence was palpable, their power overwhelming the miners' resolve. "You cannot fight the will of the spirits," James said, his voice filled with authority. "Leave this place and never return." Part 35. Victory and Restoration. The leader and his men fled, their courage shattered by the power of the amulet and the spirits. As they disappeared into the bush, a sense of relief and triumph washed over us. With the mining operations halted, the land began to show signs of recovery. The water cleared, the plants regained their vitality, and the wildlife slowly returned to its natural state. The indigenous community celebrated the victory with a ceremony of gratitude, honoring the spirits and the land. James and I were humbled by the experience, grateful for the guidance and support we had received. Part 36. A Lasting Commitment. Our journey had taught us the importance of respecting and protecting the natural world. The amulet remained a symbol of our commitment, a reminder of the bond we had forged with the spirits and the land. As we returned home, we continued our conservation work with renewed dedication. The experience had deepened our understanding of the delicate balance of nature and the responsibility we had to preserve it. The wilderness of shadows had tested us, but it had also strengthened us. We knew that the challenges we faced were far from over, but with the guidance of the spirits and the power of the amulet, we were ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Epilogue. The Legacy of the Wilderness. Years later, as we looked back on our journey, we realized how much we had grown and changed. The wilderness of shadows had become a part of our story, showing the power of courage, resilience, and the strong bond between humans and nature. Our work continued to inspire others, and the amulet was passed down through generations, its legacy a reminder of the lessons we had learned. The spirits of the land remained a guiding presence, their wisdom and protection a source of strength. As we stood together, united by our experiences and our commitment to the land, we knew that the legacy of the wilderness would continue to inspire and guide us, lighting the way for generations to come. The wilderness of shadows had taught us that true strength comes from within, and that by honoring the land and its spirits, we could find the courage to overcome any obstacle. As we looked to the future, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them with the same strength and determination that had carried us through our darkest days. Part 37. The Silence Before the Storm. The victory over the mining operation brought a temporary sense of relief, but James and I knew our work was far from over. The spirits had guided us to stop one threat, but the wilderness of shadows was vast and full of hidden dangers. As we returned to our daily lives, the memories of the bush and the spirits stayed with us. The amulet was a constant reminder of our responsibility to protect the land. Yet, the peace we felt was often disrupted by unsettling dreams and whispers in the wind. One evening, as we sat by the fire in our living room, I felt a chill run down my spine. The shadows in the room seemed to grow longer, and the air felt heavy with a sense of foreboding. "Do you feel that?" I asked James, my voice barely a whisper. He nodded, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the room. "Something's coming. We need to be ready." Part 38. The Ominous Message. The next morning, we received a message from the park ranger who had first alerted us to the illness in the wildlife. His voice was filled with urgency and fear. "We need you to come back," he said. "There's been a series of strange occurrences in the bush. People are disappearing, and the animals are acting more aggressive than ever. We believe it might be connected to the spirits." James and I exchanged a worried glance. We knew we had to return to the bush and face whatever new threat was emerging. We packed our bags, taking only the essentials and the amulet, which seemed to pulse with a faint, reassuring glow. Part 39. The Journey Back. As we journeyed back to the African bush, the sense of dread grew stronger. The landscape, once familiar and welcoming, now seemed to hold an air of menace. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call of an animal made my heart race. We arrived at the ranger station, greeted by tense and worried faces. The head ranger briefed us on the situation. People have been disappearing near the old ruins, he explained. The locals are terrified, saying it's the spirit's wrath. We've lost contact with several teams sent to investigate. James nodded, his face grim. We'll go to the ruins and see what we can find. The spirits have guided us before, and they'll guide us again. Part 40. The Haunted Ruins. The journey to the ruins was fraught with tension. The air was thick with an oppressive heat, and the sky was overcast, casting a gloomy shadow over the land. As we approached the ruins, an ancient structure overgrown with vines and moss, the sense of foreboding grew stronger. The ruins were eerily silent, the only sound the whispering whined through the broken stones. We moved cautiously, the amulet glowing faintly, guiding us through the darkness. "Stay close," James whispered, his eyes scanning the shadows. "We don't know what we're dealing with." As we explored the ruins, we found signs of recent activity: discarded gear, makeshift campsites, and eerie symbols carved into the stone. It was clear that others had been here before us, but their fate was unknown. Part 41. The First Encounter. As we delved deeper into the ruins, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. Suddenly, a chilling scream echoed through the stone corridors, sending a jolt of fear through me. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice trembling. James nodded, his face serious. "We need to find whoever made that sound. They might be in danger." We followed the sound, moving quickly but cautiously. The scream led us to a large chamber, its walls covered in ancient symbols. In the center of the room, we saw a figure lying on the ground, motionless. "Stay back," James said, his voice tense. It could be a trap. We approached the figure slowly, the amulet's glow illuminating the room. As we got closer, we realized it was one of the missing rangers, his face twisted in terror. "He's alive," I said, checking his pulse, "but barely. We need to get him out of here." Part 42. The Unseen Threat. As we carried the ranger out of the chamber, the shadows seemed to close in around us, whispering voices echoing through the ruins. The sense of being watched grew stronger, and I felt a cold hand of fear grip my heart. "We need to move faster," James urged. Whatever did this to him could still be here. Just as we reached the entrance of the ruins, the air grew thick with a suffocating darkness. A figure emerged from the shadows, its form indistinct but menacing. "You should not have come here," it said, its voice a low, guttural growl. "The spirits are angry, and their wrath will consume you." The amulet's glow intensified, and I felt a surge of energy and determination. "We're here to help," I said, my voice steady. "Tell us what we need to do to make things right." Part 43. The Spirit's Warning. The figure hesitated, its form flickering like a shadow in the wind. "The land is cursed," it said finally. "The balance has been disrupted, and the spirits demand retribution. You must restore the balance, or face the consequences." With those words, the figure vanished, leaving us alone in the suffocating darkness. We carried the ranger back to the station, where the other rangers rushed to his aid. "We need to find a way to restore the balance," James said, his voice filled with determination. "The spirits are giving us a chance to make things right." Part 44. The Search for Answers. Determined to find a way to appease the spirits, we delved into the history of the ruins and the surrounding land. We spoke with the indigenous elders, seeking their wisdom and guidance. "The ruins are a place of great power," one of the elders explained. "They were once a sacred site, where rituals were performed to honor the spirits. But over time, the site was desecrated, and the balance was lost. We knew that restoring the balance would require performing a ritual, one that would honor the spirits and heal the land. The elders provided us with the details of the ritual, and we began to prepare. Part 45. The Ritual of Restoration. The ritual required specific elements, offerings of food and drink, symbols of nature, and personal tokens that held significant meaning to us. We gathered everything we needed and returned to the ruins, determined to make things right. The atmosphere in the ruins was tense, the air thick with anticipation. We set up the ritual site, placing the offerings in a circle and lighting a small fire in the center. As we began the ceremony, the amulet glowed with a brilliant light, filling the chamber with a warm, protective energy. We recited the ancient words, making the symbolic gestures that connected us to the spirits. The air grew heavy with a sense of presence, and the shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around us in a dance of light and darkness. Part 46. The Spirits' Judgment. As the ritual reached its peak, the spirits appeared before us, their forms shimmering with ethereal light. They watched us with a mix of curiosity and seriousness, their eyes filled with wisdom. "You have honored us with your courage and humility," one of the spirits said, its voice a melodic echo. "But the balance is fragile, and it must be maintained. You must continue to protect the land and its spirits." We nodded, understanding the gravity of our responsibility. The spirit's presence was a reminder of the delicate balance that sustained the natural world, and we knew that our work was far from over. Part 47. A Renewed Commitment. With the ritual complete, the sense of foreboding that had haunted the ruins began to lift. The air grew lighter, and the oppressive darkness gave way to a sense of peace and clarity. As we returned to the ranger station, we were greeted with relief and gratitude. The ranger we had rescued began to recover, and the animals showed signs of returning to their natural behavior. James and I continued our work with renewed dedication, guided by the wisdom of the spirits and the power of the amulet. The wilderness of shadows had tested us, but it had also strengthened our resolve to protect and honor the land. Epilogue. The Enduring Legacy. Years passed, and the story of our journey through the wilderness of shadows became a source of inspiration for many. The amulet, a symbol of our commitment, was passed down through generations, its legacy a reminder of the lessons we had learned. The wilderness remained a place of beauty and wonder, a testament to the power of nature and the importance of balance. The spirits continued to guide us, their presence a source of strength and wisdom. And as we looked to the future, we knew that the legacy of the wilderness would continue to inspire and guide us, lighting the way for generations to come. The wilderness of shadows had taught us that true strength came from within, and that by honoring the land and its spirits, we could find the courage to overcome any obstacle. The story of the wilderness of shadows was a testament to the power of courage, resilience, and the enduring bond between humans and nature. And as we stood together, united by our experiences and our commitment, we knew that we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, guided by the wisdom of the spirits and the strength of our bond. This continuation builds on the tension and suspense, providing a deeper narrative that enhances the reader's experience. The story can be further expanded with additional scenes, character interactions, and detailed descriptions to reach the desired word count of over 10,000 words. Part 48. A New Mystery. With the spirits appeased and the balance restored, James and I felt a sense of accomplishment. However, our peace was short-lived. Strange reports began to surface once more, this time of bizarre sightings and eerie occurrences that defied explanation. Villagers spoke of ghostly apparitions wandering the bush at night, and some even claimed to have seen the spirits of the land taking physical form. Despite the balance being restored, it seemed something was still not right. One night, as we sat around a campfire at the ranger station, the head ranger approached us with a troubled expression. "There's been another disappearance," he said. "A local farmer went missing near the old ruins. His family swears they saw a ghostly figure leading him away." James and I exchanged a glance, our earlier sense of accomplishment replaced by a renewed determination. "We need to investigate," James said firmly. "We can't ignore this." Part 49. The Eerie Investigation. We set out the next morning, accompanied by a small group of rangers. The air was thick with tension, and the normally vibrant bush seemed cloaked in a sinister silence. As we approached the ruins, an icy wind blew through the trees, carrying faint whispers that sent chills down my spine. The ruins themselves seemed darker, more foreboding than before. "We should split up and search for clues," James suggested. "But stay close and keep your radios on." We began to comb through the area, looking for any signs of the missing farmer. The ruins were eerily quiet, the only sound the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant animal call. Suddenly, one of the rangers called out, "Over here, I found something." We rushed over to find him standing near a large stone, partially covered in dirt and vegetation. Carved into its surface were the same ancient symbols we had seen before, but these seemed newer, as if recently inscribed. "These weren't here the last time we were," James said, his voice tinged with concern. "Someone's been here." Part 50. The Ghostly Encounter. As we examined the stone, the air around us grew colder, and a dense fog began to roll in. Through the mist, a ghostly figure emerged, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. It was the farmer, but his eyes were empty, and his movements were slow and deliberate. Behind him, another figure appeared, a woman in a flowing gown, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You should not have returned," the woman said, her voice echoing through the fog. "The balance has been disturbed once more, and now the spirits seek retribution." James stepped forward, holding up the amulet. "We're here to help. Tell us what we need to do to set things right." The woman's eyes narrowed. "The amulet holds great power, but it is not enough. There is another artifact hidden deep within the ruins. You must find it and bring it to the heart of the sacred grove." Part 51. The Hidden Artifact. Determined to uncover the truth, we followed the ghostly figures deeper into the ruins. The fog thickened, and the temperature dropped, making each step feel like a struggle against an unseen force. Finally, we reached a hidden chamber, its entrance concealed by a tangle of vines. Inside, the air was stale and cold, and the walls were lined with ancient carvings depicting rituals and ceremonies. In the center of the room, on a pedestal of stone, rested an ornate box. Its surface was covered in intricate designs, and it seemed to pulse with a faint, eerie light. "This is it," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The artifact the spirits spoke of." We carefully lifted the box from the pedestal, and as we did, the ground beneath us began to tremble. The air filled with a deafening roar, and the walls of the chamber seemed to close in around us. "We need to get out of here," I shouted, grabbing the box and racing towards the exit. Part 52. The Race Against Time. With the box in hand, we made our way back through the ruins, the ground shaking beneath our feet. The fog grew thicker, and the whispers of the spirits became more urgent, filling our minds with a sense of impending doom. "We have to get to the sacred grove," James urged. "It's the only way to stop this." We navigated the treacherous terrain, the spirits guiding us with their ghostly presence. As we reached the grove, the air grew still, and a sense of calm washed over us. We placed the box at the base of the ancient tree, and the amulet began to glow with a brilliant light. The ground beneath us seemed to pulse with energy, and the spirits appeared, their forms shimmering with an ethereal glow. Part 53. The Unexpected Twist. As we watched, the box slowly opened, revealing a small, intricately carved statue. The spirits gathered around it, their eyes filled with reverence. "This is the key," the woman said, her voice a melodic whisper. "The statue holds the power to restore the balance once and for all." But as we stood there, a chilling realization dawned on us. The statue was not just a symbol of power, it was a conduit, a way for the spirits to manifest in the physical world. Suddenly, the ground beneath us began to crack, and a dark, swirling vortex opened up. The spirits' forms began to change, their once kind faces twisting into expressions of malevolent glee. "You have served your purpose," the woman said, her voice now filled with malice. "The balance has been restored, but at a cost. You have freed us, and now we will reclaim what is ours." Part 54, The Final Stand. Panic surged through me as the spirits advanced, their forms growing more solid and menacing. The amulet's glow began to fade, and I realized that we had been deceived. "We need to close the vortex," James shouted, grabbing the statue. "It's the only way to stop them." With a surge of determination, we raced towards the vortex, the spirits closing in around us. As James held the statue over the swirling darkness, the ground trembled, and the air filled with a deafening roar. "Now!" I shouted, grabbing the amulet and holding it up to the sky. With a blinding flash of light, the amulet and the statue combined their powers, and the vortex began to close. The spirits screamed in fury, their forms dissolving into the darkness as the ground sealed itself. Part 55. The chilling conclusion. As the last of the spirits vanished, the grove grew silent, and a sense of calm returned. The air was still, and the oppressive darkness lifted, replaced by the soft glow of dawn. James and I stood there, breathless and shaken, the amulet and statue now lifeless in our hands. We had stopped the spirits, but at a great cost. "We did it," James said, his voice filled with relief. "The balance is restored." But as we turned to leave, a cold whisper echoed through the grove, sending chills down my spine. "This is not the end," the voice said, barely audible but filled with a sinister promise. "We will return." The realization hit us with a chilling clarity. The spirits were not gone for good. They would always be there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for another chance to reclaim their power. As we made our way back to the ranger station, the sun rising over the horizon, we knew that our journey was far from over. The wilderness of shadows would always be a part of us, a constant reminder of the delicate balance between light and darkness. And as we looked to the future, we vowed to remain vigilant, ready to face whatever new threats might emerge from the shadows. For the spirits of the land were ancient and powerful, and their influence would never truly be banished. Epilogue. The Legacy of the Wilderness. Years later, as we looked back on our journey, we realized how much we had grown and changed. The wilderness of shadows had become a part of our story, showing the power of courage, resilience, and the strong bond between humans and nature. Our work continued to inspire others, and the amulet was passed down through generations, its legacy a reminder of the lessons we had learned. The spirits of the land remained a guiding presence, their wisdom and protection a source of strength. As we stood together, united by our experiences and our commitment to the land, we knew that the legacy of the wilderness would continue to inspire and guide us, lighting the way for generations to come. The wilderness of shadows had taught us that true strength comes from within, and that by honoring the land and its spirits, we could find the courage to overcome any obstacle. As we looked to the future, we knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them with the same strength and determination that had carried us through our darkest days. The end, for now,